Ready for a deep dive into a story. We're going to India this time, following the currents of the Antya River. We're talking about the legend of Antya, but, it's more than just dates and names.
It really is.
It's about, the power of nature,
Yeah.
and what happens when we underestimate it.
What's fascinating is how this legend isn't just a story in Thakurdwara, the village where this river flows. It's like part of the fabric of the place.
It's not just a story, right? It's
Yeah.
like their history, their belief system.
Exactly. It's passed down, not through books or anything, but through,
Life.
songs, dances, those stories you tell around a fire. It's how they stay connected.
Can you imagine that? Sitting by the river, sun setting, fireflies are coming out,
Yeah.
and someone starts telling you this story, not like once upon a time,
Yeah.
but it's real.
Mhm.
Like it actually happened.
It shows how, for so many cultures, there isn't a hard line between myth and reality. Nature is where they see the divine, so a story like Antya's.
Totally.
It's how they make sense of the world and their place in it.
So who is Antya in this? She's more than just a river, right?
Right. She's a river deity in the legend, basically a spirit that takes the form of this beautiful, maiden. This whole idea of rivers having spirits, protectors, or even like gods and goddesses. It's not only in India, though.
Yeah, for sure. Like we see it all over, right?
Absolutely. Think about ancient Egypt with the Nile and Isis, or even in Greek myths, you've got your river nymphs and gods like Poseidon ruling the seas.
Yeah.
Water has always been seen as this powerful, mystical force.
It makes you realize how universal these stories really are. But in Antya's legend, it's not all like peaceful harmony.
Right.
There's conflict, consequences.
Exactly. And that's where the real story is, where human ambition and the power of nature,
Right.
they collide. It starts with a king completely mesmerized by Antya's beauty and blinded by his own desire for power. So this king, he gets this idea. He's convinced that if he can capture Antya, if he can, control her spirit, he'll have power over the entire river. The lifeblood of India right in his hands.
Talk about ambition.
Totally. But he's missing the point, right? It's like he sees her as this prize he can win instead of,
Yeah, like she have out the river.
Exactly. The force that sustains everything. And this is what I find so interesting about this legend. It's like it speaks to this very human thing we do, trying to dominate nature instead of respecting it.
Mm.
It's a common thread you see in myths from all over. Like, think about King Midas. The guy who wished for everything he touched to turn to gold.
Oh, yeah.
Got what he wanted, but...
Yeah, really what he wanted.
Exactly. So how do you think this king tries to capture a river?
Yeah, good question. Let alone its spirit.
Yeah. How do you even begin to do that?
Well, picture this. He has this incredible net made, woven from gold, and it's enchanted with all this powerful magic, this ultimate trap to capture Antya. And he waits for this full moon, the perfect moment to, spring his trap.
Oh, this is good. I can see it now. Moonlight, the water. So what happens? Just as he's about to, throw the net on Antya, she reveals her true nature. She transforms, but not into some scary creature or anything. She turns into all these water lilies.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful, delicate flowers suddenly blooming everywhere around the net.
It's like she's saying, you think you can catch me with, brute force, gold, not a chance.
But it doesn't end there, does it? There's this whole thing about the river's anger, her retaliation.
Oh, it's coming. Remember those whispers of nature we talked about? Yeah, they become a roar. The river is furious at the king's disrespect, and it rises up. Waves are crashing against the banks, and the king, net and all, is swept away.
Oh, man. What a wake-up call. What do you think's going through his head? Is he, terrified, humbled, soaked?
Probably all of the above. But here's the thing. Even though she's angry, Antya shows mercy. She doesn't let him drown, but she keeps him captive in the river's depths.
It's like a timeout.
Yeah, like a timeout, a chance to actually understand the power he was trying to, control.
He's lost all his power, his wealth, everything that made him feel superior. Exactly. And in that moment of vulnerability, he has to confront what he's done.
It makes you think about what really matters, doesn't it? Power. Or respecting something bigger than yourself. But the story doesn't end with the king, right? What about the people? How do they react? So the king, he learns his lesson the hard way, but what about the villagers? How do they play into this whole thing?
Well, for them, it's not just a story with a beginning and an end,
Right.
It's part of who they are.
Woven into their lives.
Exactly. They remember what he couldn't, that the river's not something you conquer, but a source of life. you got to respect it.
It's passed down through them, not through a textbook or anything, just through living.
And it's not just like this vague respect either. It shows up in how they live, in very real ways.
Give me an example. How do they actually honor Antya?
Well, they have this yearly festival. They make offerings to the river. Not out of fear, though, out of gratitude.
Oh, interesting.
And they've got these farming practices passed down for generations that work with the river's flow instead of trying to,
Control it.
Yeah.
Control it.
It's like this story, it's their guide, like their moral compass for how to be in tune with nature.
It really is. Makes you wonder if there's some truth to the legend itself. I mean, maybe there was a king who tried to dam the river or, divert its flow, or some natural disaster that inspired that whole retaliation part of the story.
It's like how we remember historical figures, right? The details get maybe a little fuzzy, but their impact, who they were at their core that lasts.
Exactly. And for the people in Thakurdwara, the message is crystal clear. Respect nature. Don't underestimate it.
Yeah.
And definitely don't try to control it.
It makes you think about the stories we tell today, about the environment. Are we listening to nature, to those little whispers telling us to pay attention? Or are we, headed for the same fate as the king?
Big question, right? Antya's story reminds us that we're all part of something much bigger, and what we do today affects everything that comes after us.
Like that river, always moving, changing, carrying those whispers along with it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the legend of Antya. It's a story about the power of nature, the magic of myths, and why it's so important to listen to those age-old stories that can teach us how to live. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep your ears open to the whispers all around you.